I loved the artwork from the early generations of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, possibly since that's when I kept up with the game and nostalgia. But monsters that seemed highly experimental at the time were the fusion monsters. There were many odd and useless fusion designs early on, with unexpected fusion material monsters, which will be the topic of this list. I'll be going over the fusion monsters that basically do not make sense considering which monsters are used to make the fusion. I'm primarily judging on the appearance and names of the monsters, so do not expect an in-depth strategy with something like Cybersaurus or legitimate game analysis. And I have my crew of supporting characters with me in this video just like Yugi, Judgment Meter and AT from SoftwareAgentsCorp.
Taya's boring! Can I be the Dark Magician girl instead?
Come on, we were going for a theme here, and instead you want to be like the most popular female monster card?
Sorry!
Fine, here you go, let's just get on with the video.
Why am I Joey in this video?
You know, just forget I was trying to go for a theme, though you do make a good Joey.
But MrTopTenList, I don't even sound like Joey Wheeler. I'm not gonna try to maintain that for the rest of the video.
Alright, enough of this intro. So let's have some fun with the top 10 weirdest Yu-Gi-Oh! Fusion monsters, in our opinion. Number 10. Fusionist, fusing Petite Angel and Mystical Sheep. Number 2. A fairy squeaky toy and a sheep make a cat. We're off to a great start here.
Cute. Should be cute but scary. Should be cute but really scary.
No need to fear Fusionist, it only has a whopping 900 attack points. Mystical Sheep is arguably made worse by lowering its defense by 300 points and only improving by 100 attack points with the fusion. An amazing trade-off, I know. Is Petite Angel the culprit here? It just figuratively poisons the well with this fusion. Harpy Lady did Taya a favor by destroying this thing on sight in that one duel. If you like these cards that much, just use Mystical Sheep number 2.
And where's Mystical Sheep 1?
It's off being useful, with an effect where you can substitute it as a fusion material monster if you're missing a monster. For example, you can even fuse it with Petite Angel to make fusion. That would be a stupid idea. As for the logic of the fusion itself, I'm fine with assuming that the mystical part of the sheep causes some sort of mutation when in contact with the fairy genes. Really, Fusionist is not worth the effort for any extra thought. Number 9. Barox, fusing Frenzied Panda and Ryukushin.
Barox. This one's pretty confusing. Its materials are a panda and a gargoyle. I can see the bear part, but not the ox.
You know that's not what the name is supposed to mean. It's just meant to be a scary monster name that may have a deeper meaning that no one cares about. I can't be too harsh on this one since a gargoyle demon thing just becomes a different demon thing. Its final form just has some extra hair, which likely comes from being combined with a beast. I guess a panda monster was the best option, because when I think of brown fur, pandas are clearly what comes to mind first with their black and white fur. Of course, this is no ordinary panda we're dealing with. This is the legendary Frenzied Panda, that's purple and fights with a stick of bamboo rather than using it for consumption like a typical relaxed panda.
Why would they do that to a panda?
What, frenzy it or fuse it with a gargoyle?
Both!
Barox is also one of those rare monsters whose attack or defense is not divisible by 50. You can find other examples of this in Panic's deck from the anime. Seriously, that guy's theme must have been something like unconventional monster stats. Well, officially it was scary darkness, but you know.
I won't give up. I'm not gonna panic.
Number 8. Marine Beast, fusing Water Magician and Bahigan.
He looks like Jabba the Hutt.
I see where this could come from, since a water beast thing could go the way of the ugly duckling and become a majestic fish.
I think he might be an ugly duckling that can't turn into a swan.
Be nice, he's not bothering you. But why does it need to combine with a human magician to become this marine beast? Does she transform it? I could buy that, but why does she decide to make him half lion? I see no feline attributes among these monsters.
I thought kitties don't like water.
Technically, then only half of this monster would be displeased with his form. Really, I could dismiss this more easily if this monster was not a figurative palette swap of the different fusion monster Rare Fish, which was released earlier the year in which Marine Beast was printed.
This is like in a Final Fantasy game when you get to a later part of the game and you fight enemies whose sprites are just recolors of enemies you fought earlier in the game. But the game has the audacity to pretend that it's a different creature. That was lazy of Square, and this is lazy of Konami.
Rare Fish makes sense since it uses our friend Fusionist and Enchanting Mermaid to create a feline with a fishtail. Sure, no one would likely use it since that would mean you would have to have Fusionist in your deck, but it makes sense. Number 7. Last Warrior from Another Planet, fusing Zambraya the Dark and Maryokutai. This is really the only useful card from the perspective of the TCG on this list. Everything gets destroyed on the field when it's special summoned, and no one can basically summon anything when it's face up on the field. But if those effects don't make your opponent rethink his or her strategy, the name of this card should surely strike confusion into the mind of your opposition. So if this is the last warrior from another planet, prior to the fusion, were these monsters the ultimate and penultimate warriors from the same planet? Was this a last-ditch effort? Since Maryokutai is actually an aqua monster, was Zambraya already the last warrior before the fusion? Does the another planet in the fusion monster's name imply that these two monsters coincidentally form a being from a planet that is not their own? And then that opens up the door to question which planet Zambraya and Maryokutai are from, and how they can form a cyborg-looking monster without having any robot parts. So I'm just gonna stop opening all these different doors here. Number 6. Skull Knight, fusing Tainted Wisdom and Ancient Brain. Wow, knowledge really is power. Two weak monsters themed around brains make a 2650 attack point monster that seems like he's all about brute strength. However, the monsters fusing do go well together. I don't know what I expected an evil brain and a tainted brain to turn into, but I probably would have expected a bigger brain. Instead, these brains turn into a skull, which surrounds and protects the brain. So does that mean if two skulls fuse, they create a scalp or whatever surrounds the skull?
Okay, I can kind of see this. This is acceptable.
Number 5. Mystical Sand, fusing Giant Soldier of Stone and Ancient Elf. An elf that utilizes magic turns into a standard witch that rides a broom. I can buy it until I think about why she needs a Giant Soldier of Stone to achieve this form.
I don't think it's that strange, and I'm not being facetious like I have been at other parts in this video. And even if you think it's strange, that is some beautiful artwork.
And I can see why it makes sense. Mystical Sand. Rocks and stones can break down to form sand with erosion, and other scientific processes that I learned about in 9th grade earth science that I don't feel like remembering right now.
How is the witch lady sand?
I'm not quite sure, but she's a rock-type monster, so I'm guessing the sand is part of her in some way.
But she's not a rock. She's a witch.
We don't know her life story. Maybe she's a living statue. Or maybe card names, types, and attributes don't really matter when looking at the artwork, but that would defeat the purpose of this list. Just look at her as a witch with weird fusion material monsters.
So shouldn't the card title be Pretty Witch?
Out of everything so far, why is this stumping you the most? We just have to accept that there are mountains in the background for some reason, and Giant Soldier of Stone's sacrifice was likely in vain. How about we say that the Soldier of Stone was repurposed into her stylish broom during the fusion and call it a day?
So confused. I think the Ancient Elf needs a little bit more love.
Stop! Number 4. Kaminari Attack, fusing Oku Beam and Mega Thunderball. Kaminari is the Japanese word for thunder, so I see where Mega Thunderball is needed. But what happened to Okubeam? He's a fuzzy gray monster who needs some Visine that somehow becomes an old man with thunder abilities due to fusing with the world's most dangerous Nerf ball. Maybe he becomes the beard? That matches the color. And wait, is this old man actually someone more significant?
So in Japan, this card is called Raiji no Ikari, which translates to Wrath of the Thunder God. And in English, he's named after the Thunder God's attack. Why don't they just call him Zeus? That's who he is.
There are a few video games where you can see Zeusanari attack in his full garb, where I think he's wearing clouds or something to further the idea that he's the Thunder God. I'm not really sure. Either way, he always has a consistent look of anger on his face.
He's scary.
Number 3, Camion Wizard, fusing Mystical Elf and Curtain of the Dark Ones.
Okay, so it's pretty, creepy, even more creepy.
This card design is really cool though. It has a scythe, nice suit, foreboding mask, but why do you have to bring Mystical Elf into this? She's just a kind soul who actually has use with her 2,000 defense points.
So somehow by fusing with stagehands, Mystical Elf changes genders, probably, and loses her defensive power? What a lousy card. I like the art though.
At first, I had the headcanon that Camion Wizard is some alter ego of Mystical Elf where she uses the curtain as a cape. But then I noticed that the hands were a different color, and she's not blonde. Is this what happens when she's tainted by this evil curtain? And where does the scythe come into the equation? Is this curtain hiding weapons too? Where's my scythe? How does the curtain even attack on its own without the fusion? It would just look silly for these hands to kinda slap the opponent.
It reaches out from under the table and grabs your legs and pulls you under into the depths of hell.
Anyway, do Mystical Elf a favor and never use her in a fusion. Just let her do that endless chant in peace. Number 2, Musician King, fusing Witch of the Black Forest and Lady of Faith. I can't even attempt to rationalize this one. A witch and a nun fuse to create a rock star. Well, they're all spellcasters. I guess that electric guitar can play some magical tunes.
Musician King makes perfect sense. 2 ladies become a guy, 2 guys become a lady. 2 negatives make a positive, 2 positives make a negative. It's mathematical, Mr. Top 10 List.
Wow, thanks, Professor! The only impractical use I could see for this card is if you have Witch of the Black Forest on the field before fusing these cards, you get to activate her effect which triggers when sending her to the graveyard, but you could just sacrifice her to summon something better instead. Now if the anime-only Heavy Metal King was a real transformation for this card, then you give me more incentive to use it. Just use Metal Morph on the king and he turns into a metal music genre version of himself. In reality, Metal Morph just boosts attack and defense and would not do anything else special to the Musician King, but I'm glad the anime had some fun with this. It's like when the anime had Giant Soldier of Stone attack the moon, and that eventually became a card, so maybe I can still hold out some hope for the Heavy Metal King. Number 1. This card has many aspects of other entries on this list. Unexpected fusion material, strange name, design based off a pre-existing monster. I'm talking about Great Mammoth of Goldfine, fusing the Snake Hair and Dragon Zombie. So I have a theory for this one. Since the Snake Hair is supposed to be Medusa based on her card lore and Japanese name, she turned Dragon Zombie to stone, which fossilized it and caused it to be reborn as a living fossil. Though somehow it's a completely different species than a reptilian dragon now. Don't strain your head too much with this one, let's just conclude it as Medusa fossilized the dragon by turning it to stone.
Fossils and bones are different. Oh no, wait. Fossils and stones are different.
Oh. Well, there's a major flaw in my theory. The only thing all 3 of these monsters have in common is that they're all dead. This fusion just felt so random to me since the mammoth seems like it could have just been a normal monster. In fact, it sort of is.
Never mind the baffling fusion materials, this card is just a lazy redesign of Mammoth Graveyard. It's quite literally Yugi's card, viewed from another perspective.
The mammoth is just an existing shot of Mammoth Graveyard from the manga, which opens up the question, why isn't Mammoth Graveyard one of the fusion materials? The monsters in question are already random, why not have one of the fusion material monsters actually make sense? Maybe the dragon is what makes this Mammoth of Goldfine so great. Are one of these monsters from this alleged land of Goldfine? Is that why they're needed? Well, guess what? Goldfine isn't actually a place. This mammoth's Japanese name just translates to Golden Demon Elephant. So where did Goldfine come from in its localized name? Well, it's the last name of 4Kids co-producer Lloyd Goldfine, who helped bring the Yu-Gi-Oh anime to North America. So here you go, Lloyd, we're honoring you with a fusion card that no one would likely ever use in reality.
This is essentially the Slifer the executive producer joke, before that was established.
So with all that combined, Great Mammoth of Goldfine is our weirdest Yu-Gi-Oh! Fusion monster. Now, what did you think of these choices? Are there any that come to mind that we left off this list? Were there any on our list that make more sense than we gave them credit for? Let us know in the comments. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for some outtake blooper things if you like post-video content, and we will see you in the next video. And just like Yugi, I'll have my crazy cast of characters with me in this video.
I don't want to be Taya. Can I be the Dark Magician Girl instead?
You can be the Toon Dark Magician Girl since she fits your persona better.
Alright.
Why am I Joey in this video?
Well, we had a theme going until about 5 seconds ago, but you like being Joey, right? I thought you were Joey in that one scene in that Top 10 Genies video we made.
No, that was supposed to represent my emotions. I wasn't trying to be Joey.
Now, one would assume that this mammoth is from the land of Goldfine, but are you aware? Goldfine actually doesn't exist.